Minnesota Vikings fans, welcome back to the Living in Loserville podcast. I mean, if that's not a great description of the weekend for Minnesota football, I don't know what is. Welcome back, like I said, to the Living in Loserville podcast, Purple People Eaters edition. I'm your host, Chris Carlson. My co-host, Aaron Miller, will be joining us shortly. And, of course, we're going to break down the debacle that was last night. The Vikings went down swinging, but they definitely went down. You know, give them a little credit for coming back, at least the offense, some credit for coming back. But, man, that thing got ugly. And just the third quarter was just ridiculous. I mean, we've been talking about a bend, but don't break defense. That broke last night. How many rushing yards can you give up? Anyway, we're going to break down the positives, not a whole lot of them, and plenty of negatives when it comes to this Seattle Seahawks game. I was going to say beatdown, but we did make a run back. Unfortunately, we missed yet another. That's three extra points this year. Isn't that fun? Anyway, like I said, we're going to break down this game, this Seattle game last night. Monday Night Football had a great opportunity. Is this just a broken record this year? Great opportunity on the road. We're talking to you, Kansas City Chiefs, that game. We're talking to the Vikes about the Green Bay Packer game as well. Winnable games on the road against quality opposition, and they come up short. Like I said, they went down swinging, sure. I didn't think they'd make it a game after that. We will just ask some questions. Even that 4th and 2 call. You know, should we have went? Well, they went for it. If they got the first down, who knows? They go down the way they're moving the ball. Maybe they score a touchdown. Maybe. Or maybe a punt. Maybe it's easier to punt when you only have to get 3 points. You had 3 timeouts. You had the 2-minute warning. So there are a variety of things that we're going to go over in a review. Thielen. I was surprised that Thielen didn't play. Didn't even make the trip. How badly did he damage his hamstring when he tried to play those couple of plays in that Kansas City game? I wonder. That'll be one of the questions for sure. Couple of them we got. Should we start to worry about Thielen? Anyway, there was, like I said, some positives. The defense, where can you find? I don't know. Like, they caused some turnovers. One of the turnovers was super lucky. I mean, we still batted the ball down. Anyway, you know what? I can't just sit here and rant, okay? We will, though, check out, we'll preview that Lions game, that home game. Said that 8-4. That's the thing about last night. It's hard to feel positive in the long run going into January, right? Yeah, we make the playoffs. That's great. Could we still win the division? Sure. We could win, 4 games in a row, and you're sitting at 12-4, and you're like, holy crap, this is a damn good season. How many 12-4 seasons do you really have? So it's kind of a mixed emotion, but obviously that emotion's kind of stuck in the last night. So like I said, must win. All these are must wins from here on out, really. The LA Rams are 7-5, right on our heels, and the Bears too. But, they do have some difficult games, especially the Rams down the stretch. But that was another thing. Seattle's sitting right there for us. We could have got the tiebreaker. There was a coulda, woulda, shouldas. But like I said, we'll preview that Lions game. And then we figure, there is a percentage of Vikings football fans that give some sort of shit about the Gophers. We will talk, more losing, this time to the Badgers, and we'll put a nice little bow on the regular season, maybe talk a little bit of recruiting, stuff like that. Sounds like a January 1st bowl game is in order. They really smacked us today in the rankings. That was pretty ridiculous. But like I said, we will definitely talk this through. Sometimes it's good just to talk it through, right? You gotta express the feelings that you're having. And we definitely will do that. But if this is your first time listening to the Living in Loserville podcast, of course, Purple People's edition, Eaters edition. Man, I'm all over the place. You can find it on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope-Radio. It streams live and archives there. But under the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast, to listen to the Living in Loserville podcast, you can find it anywhere. iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Stitcher, Spreaker, really across the board. We're also part of the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network, which can be found on iHeartRadio. In fact, you can use your Siri or Alexa through Spotify or TuneIn to find the show as well. While you're at it, why don't you head on over to thegruelingtruth.net. That's thegruelingtruth.net. We got a great sponsor over there, betnow.eu, promo code TGT, as in the Grueling Truth. That's betnow.eu. The Grueling Truth, it's football, it's basketball, it's boxing, it's baseball, it's everything in between. And one more thing. If you're thinking about cutting the cord, or maybe you have and you're not quite happy, you just want some sort of package of channels, I got something you may want to take a gander at. AT&T TV Now. It's streaming cable, okay? You have the 7-day free trial, no annual contracts. You can stream it anywhere. The cloud DVR definitely comes in clutch. I was using it just last night. Like I said, they have the 7-day free trial, but the plans start as low as $50 a month. That includes HBO. Try AT&T TV Now. That's streaming cable. I do it myself, okay? I'm not just hucking this thing to you. I mean, I kind of am, but not all the way. All righty. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-host, Aaron, and see how he's doing on this wonderful, wonderful day after a very rough football weekend for Minnesota fans. How are you doing, sir?
Man, I'm as good as you can be after the two, I won't say epic losses, but epic in a small sort of way. I guess one was more epic than the other. I guess it's kind of what we get here in Loserville. This is a nice, comfortable spot for us talking about a 2-loss weekend. And, it doesn't make you feel any bit better about it. But, you know what? Going to the defense of these Vikings, I mean, when you got Rhodes having his issues, giving up a ton of rushing yards, as you'll go ahead and give the stats later, not really much of a pass rush to be spoken of. You had spots and moments. And then, you just being on the field way too much. I mean, we really got to start asking ourselves, and I'll just present this question to you. Are we still a top defense in this league?
Nope. No sirree, Bob. I'm not even – the way they played last night, I can't even say bend but don't break. I was just getting used to being a bend but don't break. Last night, that shit broke. So, no, we are not a top-tier defense. That's the short of it, the long and the short of it.
Well, there were moments and there were plays, but overall, you're giving up the 7-yard first down carries. Back to, what it was a little bit like last year. We couldn't stop them. Now, I know the Seahawks are a good football team, the big running back and so on, but you got to stop the run on first down. You got to get off the field on third down. You got to do these things. You got to be able to play some sort of pass defense. I don't want to say that it's all doom and gloom, but that was not a good-looking defense last night at all. And you face a difficult challenge on the road against Seattle, and you just don't play very well defensively. I'm not going to throw it all on the defense, but, you made a play here, you made a play there, but just not enough plays made on the whole.
Yeah, you're right. And it just, we talked about there's been hope on the defense to get back to elite because, well, we said it. We sound like a broken record on that side, but we've said it enough where usually the cornerback is well within range to make a play. They just haven't made a play. We've stressed that over and over and over. And that's why I felt, okay, right now it's been but don't break, but it'll get back, and they do well in the red zone. And so I figured, it wouldn't get worse. It would only improve. And at some point, these corners are going to start to make the plays that they're in position. We rarely saw people just getting, torched. And last night we definitely did. Xavier Rhodes makes 2 key mental, mistakes. Obviously the one where he threw the dude out of bounds. in the NFL that's going to get called. Maybe at college because you're kind of winging around and you throw them. Yeah, maybe you get away with that. Maybe you don't. I don't know. But in the pros, you're not gonna. And then obviously, thinking that he had a safety behind him for help and he thought he was in zone, clearly those are mental mistakes. And that's usually not, even in this struggle of a year for him this year, it's never really been that many mental issues. It just in general, we haven't had a lot of mental breakdowns. It's really technique and closing on the ball and all that stuff. So, yeah, man. And the crazy thing is, they got a couple of first round pickups, or not first round, but first down run pickups, right? And we'll talk about some stats there. In fact, what did I say the number was? 16? 16 first down rushes. That's freaking impressive, dude. But anyway, early on though, they did hold though. They held on a 3rd and 1, I remember, and I was like, okay, 3rd and 1, that's pretty good. We go right down, have a great drive. CJ Ham breaks a tackle and just running. That was pretty funny, dude. Because Cousins just kind of flicked the ball. It was just a good play overall, kind of off schedule. We had that end around to Diggs for 27 yards, and that was one of our biggest runs of the night, unfortunately. And then some key plays by Irv Smith, or I should say key blocks by Rudolph and Irv Smith. And, Cook runs in there looking like Emmitt Smith in the 90s, nobody touching him, and you're like, okay, cool, 7-zip, sounds good. Something we've been stressing all year on the defense, get off the field on 3rd downs. Too many long drives. Would you classify a 14-play, 8-minute drive that goes 75 yards? Would that be classified as a long drive, Aaron?
That would be classified as a long drive. And you go on and you think of that defensive, you're not getting the rush. You got Griffin doing exactly what I said he did, although he kind of held his rush a little bit yesterday. And, that first half was okay. You can take that. We'll take that. That's not too big of a deal. And it just kind of, offense was keeping pace. Things were looking good. And then, they'd have a breakdown here, give up a first down, and you're like, okay, Russ is going to get some running first downs. We knew that coming in. He got one. And, that first half, you thought, okay, we're going to keep this game close, if not stay in the lead. And, nice drive at the end of the half. It was all good. Going into the half thinking, okay, now just make some adjustments and get after it. And then that second half came, and you can talk about that.
Well, yeah, and then we had a couple of offensive line penalties, back-to-back drives in that first half after we had scored and whatever in the second quarter, actually, because of that long-ass drive. Back-to-back 6-play drives, and we had to punt. It was 14-7 off of that double-tip volleyball-looking, interception touchdown. So that was just that was luck, obviously, but you did knock the ball down. Good things happen when you get a piece of it, but that was just like a gift wrapped up right there. But still, they had another 10, play drive. We held them to a field goal, but on that drive, Xavier got beat for a big play, and same with Barr. And it's just like, dude, these big chunk pass plays are so unlike the defense that we've had. And like you said, though, I did like how they responded. 58 seconds left, and we got down there. Cook did fumble in there, but we recovered it, and Rudolph and Diggs made some good catches. Cousins made a couple of good tosses, and I'm thinking, okay, that's pretty nice, dude. 17-10. We're in pretty good shape here, and you can't go too nuts about the defense. They did give you a score. They turned the ball over, whatever you want to say there, but you're right. It's just like 3 and out right away. And the pressure in the second half, well, I should say in the third quarter, started finding the home big time. And, of course, Seattle, nice 9-play, 4-minute drive. Go down there. That was the personal foul penalty Rhodes drive right there. That made it 17-7. Got the ball back. Cook fumbles. He hurts his shoulder. We find out it's really his chest. his chest that he hurt a couple of weeks ago against Broncos. So we're sitting there. We fumbled the ball, right? Aaron check, fumbled the ball. Cook's hurt and Diggs hurt. And you're just like, okay, dude, this doesn't really look that good here. We might have some issues. Now, luckily, the defense did hold. The red zone, they if you just throw the ball from the 30, you'll probably score. But once you get in the red zone, they are actually pretty good at stopping them. I'll give them credit there. We can't just completely destroy them, even though they kind of deserve it. But 20-17, no big deal. Okay, let's just get the ball going. 6-play punt. Just give it right back to them. No holes to rush, no Cook, no time anymore. The protection broke down. And, of course, like no problem. The running game is starting to take over. They're bringing that. I think they said they did it 27 or maybe 27 plays. I was going to say percentage, but that's 27 plays this year. They bring in like it's college, the sixth. We've even done that for Gophers, and you've seen plenty of teams do that over the years. 6 offensive linemen, and they just start plugging that run. And before you know it, it's 27-17, end of the third. We had that on that play. Rhodes had that miscommunication, mental error. It looked like with Smith because it looked like Smith was blitzing, but then he faked the blitz, and Harrison seemed like he got the shallow part of the zone, and obviously Rhodes. It appeared anyway. We don't know the play call, and Zimmer was real hush-hush with it. So it kind of makes me think I don't really know. Either way, it's a mental error right there, regardless of what happened. And Xavier made it up on a different mental error. And, he didn't get targeted a bunch, but he might as well have because they were what did you say, 4 for 4? So 4 targets.
99 yards and a touchdown.
Right. And so he's not getting picked on, but when he gets there, when it's time, it's like the big plays, It can be a whole quarter can go by and there's not even a mention of Xavier. He's doing his job. But then, bam, 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 like it's been like this all freaking year. He had a couple of good games and that's it, dude. But yeah,
we haven't heard
that. Go ahead.
We haven't heard anything about that, the play, whether it was a mental error. It was obviously a mental error, something in the coverage. Blown coverage somehow, and I got to think you've got nothing but vets on that defense. Had to have been something. I'm inclined to say it was probably Rhodes, blowing the coverage, but I don't know that for sure. Just like you don't know that for sure, but it was definitely a play where you're like, what? That just never happens to this defense. They're always at least somewhere in position, or you can at least see where it broke down, and you couldn't even really see where it broke down. Smith, you said, was in that shallow zone, and then Rhodes he played the whole play like he had safety help
behind him, right?
But he didn't have safety help.
Yeah.
Dude ran right by him and got that ball. And then, right, and then Rhodes lost his mind, as that was just the cherry on top of all the other plays he had that night. And and then you start to go, okay, well, we have depth, but do we really have depth at the corner spot? You put Hughes in there. Where's Hill been? Where's the big corners that you need? You just don't see them. And Hughes is coming off that ACL, so I'm sure he's not 100%, probably somewhere in that 85 range. And then you got, isolating. This is when I'm starting to see a lot more of running backs getting isolated on linebackers, receivers getting isolated on linebackers. And I know Kendricks and Barr are good in coverage, but they're not that good. You're not going to be able to cover a running back on a deep third. You're not going to be able to cover a wide receiver almost at all. And so there's a lot of isolation going on now, so I'm not sure exactly scheme-wise what's going on. I'm sure Zimmer will fix it up somehow or another. He did last year, but you're starting to see interesting ways to attack this defense that are being successful, and that's kind of the problem. But, you didn't see a lot of that last night because they just ran the ball down our throats, and there wasn't a thing we could do about it.
Yeah, exactly. And next thing you know, there's an interception. Right when they flashed that stat, Cousins, broke the record for the longest, even though that wasn't his fault, the interception, but it was funny how they put up that stat. He beat Warren Moon. is the longest ever, run without an interception. And all of a sudden, a couple possessions later, interception. But, like I said, that definitely wasn't Cousins' fault. Dig didn't catch the ball. It was a good play by the corner, I'll say that. But Diggs, he was right there. Now, I guess you could say, could you say there's a jersey, grab before it in like a elbow grab from the corner? Yeah, you could. In fact, I forgot which broadcaster it was, but they're like, some people will say that he's grabbing the jersey. I just think that's good defense. I'm just like, well, which one is it? Because those are two different things. You know what I mean?
Well,
that's two different items, buddy.
Yeah, and then you got this whole momentum shift if you believe in momentum, and then was I the only one in the world that saw that fake punt coming? I mean, I called it when I saw it. I'm like, this is a fake. You could tell by the way the punter was standing. He was kind of leaned over and hunched over. I'm like, that's going to be a fake. And boom, it's a fake. You get the first down, 20 extra yards, and just little back-breaking things like that. Now, in all fairness, the Vikings did fight back pretty well. Defense stiffened up a little bit. Offense got going to get us into that game again, which was a good thing. But then you go ahead and Dan Bailey serves us up another missed extra point, which at this point in Viking lore, it's just getting ridiculous. That would have been a 3-point game, would have changed the whole outlook towards the end of that game. And, that's why we call it living in Loserville.
Yeah, I mean, after that third quarter, you're just like, so it's 34-17, huh? Is that what you say? Sweet. Or actually, that was early fourth because they had a quick strike. And we came out, Diggs dropped another ball, and we're like, okay, dude. And somehow, some way, Treadwell broke free, total blown coverage, 58-yarder, and you're like, okay, well, I mean, whatever. But then Rhodes, yeah, I said it, Xavier Rhodes, came out and hit Metcalf hard, legally, and caused the fumble. So then all of a sudden, like you said, momentum, whatever you call it, started getting going. Rudolph made a couple of great catches in the game in general. Cousins on that freelance first down. That was a dope-ass catch, too, with the safety in the corner on him. That was really nice. I think on that drive, Diggs drew a PI. Rudolph had it was kind of like an alley-oop. Just alley-oop, he'll finish it. And Rudolph really coming alive. Cousins and Rudolph are really starting to play off each other really, really well. Obviously, with Thielen going down, you had to get another wide receiver in there. We've seen more Irv Smith, but Rudolph has really, really stood out. And they even showed a couple of his blocks, which is he's not known for. But he has now 36 red zone touchdowns in his career. That's a whole lot. But of course, like you said, we missed the point after attempt, and so you're like, what the fuck? That's the third one this year. So let's just cut to the chase, okay? Rudolph had another nice catch. I think like a 14-yard pickup, 19-yard pickup. It's 4th and 2. There's 2:38 on the clock. All 3 timeouts. The defense has done better. The offense is moving. The momentum is there, whatever you want to call it. What do you do there? Okay, it's 2:30 something. Like I said, basically 4 timeouts. Do you punt and try to get the ball back? Because if you don't make it, they're right there. They can score. You know what I mean? Or so let's answer that question. And then, with that extra point, is that extra point an easier way to answer that question because that you don't have to drive the field for an actual touchdown. So it's easier to say, well, I can punt because shit, I only needed like a minute, even if they were to get a first down. What are your thoughts on 4th and 2? It's easy to sit here and, the next day, right? Monday morning quarterback, I guess Tuesday morning quarterback on this one. And if they got that first down, the way things are going, maybe they would go down, score, and we'd be talking about a victory. But what are your thoughts right there? 4th and 2, all 3 timeouts left, 2:30 something on the clock.
Well, that's a pretty easy answer for me. Considering all the things that you laid out, momentum, timeouts, all those things, it's all negated to me by how well Seattle had been running the football. you give it back to them, you can't help but think they're going to run this ball and run the clock out. And so I'm with it on the fourth down. Now, would I have done it? Yeah, I think I would have. I think that was the choice to make just because of how good Seattle had been running the football. And you just don't, if you got a chance to keep the ball, you keep the ball and not give it back to them. They'll throw in that extra lineman, get 7 yards on first down, and just continue to run it down your throat the way they had been doing it for the rest of the game. So I think, you got to pick your poison there. And I think that going on fourth might have been your only choice, although you had other choices, obviously. But the way the game had been going, I think that's what you do. And you got to think that you can get 2 yards. I mean, you got to believe in your offense. You got to believe in your offensive line. You just got to believe they can do it. And you certainly don't want to give the ball back to Seattle, especially with that field position.
That's where I'm like, okay, we're on our side of the territory. You know what I mean? We're still we're not past the 50. We're not at the 38 or 42. I think we should have punt. When you have that, I think we were starting to slow them down. We had caused that fumble. We had made them punt on the previous. I just think that you're giving them almost a field goal at that point. And that was my problem. With it. So I'm on the other side. I would have punted, and I guess it was 4th and 3. I thought it was 4th and 2. Whatever. Either way, 4th and 2 I'll call it, because that was my question. I would have punted it. I would have punted it, because not to say, you could for sure trap them within the 10, but you can punt the shit out of the ball, get the ball back in time, and who knows, obviously, we don't really know what would happen. Now, when I ask you, if we're only down by 3, at that point, the score is 34-31 instead of let's pretend Dan Bailey isn't on the Vikings and he's just kicking on a different team. He makes it 34-31. Then what do you do?
That does change it a bit. I would say, okay, I'm going to just boil it down quickly and just say you got to make a play. I mean, we've talked about this on the show, that you can't almost do things. It's got to get done, and you got to believe that it's going to get done, and you got to put it in their hands to do it. And I'm not going to say you go for.
Couldn't you say that about the defense though too?
Yeah, I think it changes.
Same argument.
Definitely, I have made it.
Hey, dude, hold it.
Yeah,
hold it for us.
I think it changes the play call, Chris, but I don't think it changes for me whether or not you go on fourth. I think it changes the call though. I think maybe you try to throw the ball a little bit farther downfield because you need more yardage. I think it changes the play call, but not whether or not you go on fourth. I think you need to keep the ball because, like I said, you can't give it back to Seattle the way they had been running it.
That's fair. And, they did gain 24 yards in 7 plays, too, beyond that. But, they were also at the 42, you know what I mean? So if they would have done that at the 20 and punted, it's interesting to say. It's a good question. That's why we bring it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but the second question's a moot point because we can't get a kicker that'll make an extra point when the pressure's on. I mean, this is to the point where Bailey.
Yeah.
There was the year where we were like, just make the kick, make the kicks. We'll worry about that later. And now we're in the point where we got a kicker who will make the kicks unless there's pressure on that kick, and then it's. You don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes he'll make it, sometimes he won't.
Point, dude. It's fucking dead center, dude.
Right.
Like, just kick the fucking ball through the fucking upright.
What's the issue here with kicking? We'll have to spend a show on that sometime. Is it just not finding the guys or cutting the guys, or what have we done that we can't find a kicker since, Jesus, I guess Blair was good for a bit, and then before that, I don't even know who we had before that, but yeah, we need to find a guy who's steady and can kick an extra point. Maybe miss one all season. That'd be fine. Miss one.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point. We are, not to sugarcoat it or make excuses. There are more misses now ever since they put it back, but it's when you miss it, like you said. These are key times to get an extra point, dude. It's dead center. It wasn't a windy night. You know what I mean? Like, dude, you fucked up. You fucked up, basically. And when you look at some of these numbers, almost 20 minutes in time of possession, dude. 218 on the ground. They ran the ball 43 times at 5.1 a clip. Rushing attempts for the Vikings, 14. 43 to 14. That's some college football stats right there. That was ridiculous. And we gave them 15 third down opportunities. That tells you a lot of them were probably 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 1, that type of thing. 7 of 15. We weren't bad on 3rd down, 5 of 10 offensively, but really that's 16 first downs were just.
Well, that's my whole case about. Right, that's my whole case about not giving the ball back. They held the ball the whole game, ran the ball incredibly well all day. It's like, you're going to take your chances against that? I mean, you got to keep the ball in that situation and hope that you can get 3 or 2, whatever, how many yards you needed on 4th down. And wasn't it just like a bad pass? Cousins threw a ball low and dude didn't catch it. I think that was that 4th down play, right? I don't think they tried to run that, did they?
There was someone draped all over him. Had nothing to do with a bad pass. There was nobody open.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know there was one low to Diggs.
It was to Irv Smith.
Okay.
It was to Irv Smith. He was jumping for it. The guy was right there. I mean, I guess you could say maybe the guy was there early, but he was draped all over him.
Yeah. So, and that changes, like I said, the whole play call. That mixed extra point really just, you knew it was over then. He's like, okay, you went from a 3 where we're in this game to now you got 2 scores to win this game. Not enough time. They're running the ball. It was just a recipe. And, self-inflicted wounds. It was all over. I mean, I don't know what happened at halftime, but they just came out and imploded in that 3rd quarter. And I don't know what to put it on. They had a nice lead going into halftime, had done some good things in the first half, especially at the end of the first half. Come out in the 3rd quarter, go 3 and out. Okay, fine. We can live with that. Defense gives up a touchdown. Come back out. It's fumble. It's what do you? I don't know, man. It's one of those things in Viking football. Being a Viking football fan, that God damn, you're just used to it, and it's just not good at all.
It's a doozy. This one's from Courtney Cronin, who does good work. One of my favorites locally. Seattle scored 27 of its 37 points in the second half, as we know, which was the 2nd most points allowed by a Vikings defense after half under Zimmer. The Seahawks owned a 2-1 time possession, as we know. The Vikings set season worst in points, rushing yards, 218, and 2 rushing touchdowns allowed. I mean, so it was the worst we've given up this season. It's got to be one of the worst in his time. I mean, but anyway. Anything else as far as this Monday Night Football game? Anything else you want to talk about before we get into this must-win home game against the Detroit Lions?
No, but it was a solid loss, and by solid loss I mean like we lost that football game, and for the first. Well, one of the few times it's not Cousins. Cousins didn't lose that game for us. That was everybody else, the defense, the secondary, everybody lost that game. So you can't put that one on Cousins. I think he tried to play a good game, came out and did what he could. Could have done better, could have done worse, but this loss is not at the feet of Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, that's a good point. We haven't mentioned that yet. Still got to mention it, though, because you see Facebook groups and you see people on Twitter and you see even media members just knee-jerking. And the guy hasn't even thrown a pick that was his fault in like 7 games or something like that. And, the whole Monday Night Football game, of the 8 losses, right, here's 6 of them. 3 to the Seahawks, 1 to the Steelers, 1 to the Chiefs, 1 to Philly the year they won the championship. And his team allowed 29 points a game in all those. And when you look at his numbers, sure, some of it's in garbage time, some of it wasn't, but it's not anywhere near. And it's so funny, the clickbait thing nowadays, everybody just runs with that. It's like, okay, but why would you run with that when that was actually, I mean, you can look at Joe Namath and Doug Williams combined 2-11 on Monday Night Football. Both those guys did pretty good in the Super Bowl, from what I remember. It's silly to actually even bring it up. In fact, I'm gonna say it's the defense. You know that 1990s campaign slogan? It's the economy, stupid. It's the defense, stupid. You know that's what I think I'll name our show. No, I won't do that. But seriously, it's like, dude, if we're still trying to, if anyone out there is still trying to blame Cousins right now for this shit, just stop, dude. Why are you a fan? Why are you even paying attention to this stuff? Because it's got to be just a nightmare to try to live with yourself and look in the mirror. I mean, it's just got to be. But back to Cook though, suffered what they said shoulder injury. Turns out it was a chest injury that he had hurt back in in that Denver game. So he said he's going to be okay. You know, he did say he's going to play, and they were just being, like really worried about, they're just being safe, but he said he's definitely going to be good to go. And as far as, Linval Joseph down the stretch, and this came from, Andrew Kramer, Linval Joseph told him that he was given a 6-week recovery timetable from his knee surgery, and he made it back in 3 weeks. And it was the first time he had surgery on that knee. So in the long run, that's good. We're starting to get people back. Before we get to the Detroit Lions, one of my last questions is, should we be a little bit more concerned than we first thought with Thielen in this hamstring? Because almost everything pointed to he was going to play until about Thursday when he said, well, if I'm not 100%, I'm not going to play. It's like, so you're telling me you're not going to play. Did he injure himself way worse when he tried to come back for that Chief game when he was out only like a game and a half or something like that? Is that what happened? Because he did say that he's never had, which still surprised me as a wide receiver, never had a hamstring injury and just didn't realize how serious it was until he played about 5 plays and said, oh, there's no fucking way I'm going to do this. And now they're being, they're obviously being smart with it. But this is another key road game, that Chiefs game. We needed him. We're going to need him for the stretch. Luckily, our offense somehow has been still productive without him. But should we be a little bit more concerned than I guess we were in even our last show? Because, like I said, all signs pointed to he's playing.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know if he re-aggravated in Kansas City. I don't know if he re-aggravated at practice this week. There's so many questions about this hamstring, and hamstrings are tricky to begin with. We've illustrated that many, many times. You just don't ever know what's going to happen. They can be re-aggravated. This can happen. And then sometimes you can just get better in 3 days. You just don't know with a hamstring. So, and then you got to think back to like Minnesota media, like all the stuff they would hide from Maurer and, for the Twins and, things they would call odd names. Is it a hamstring? So it makes me wonder, is it a hamstring? Did he mess up his hip in that catch? Where he went out of that game. We thought it was a hand when he went down, but it wasn't. Didn't look like there was much on the hamstring at the time. They calling it a hamstring and it's something else. You just don't know, and they're not giving you straight answers, and that just opens up the speculation more and more and more. And then the fact that he's not on the field is just the end point of it all. And so you think, well, obviously you want him to take the time he needs to take to be healthy, but also we'd like to know exactly what he's trying to heal up from.
Yeah, man, I definitely think it's time to worry. And if we can get him back, though, like with what the offense has done without him, it could really get fun down the stretch if we can get him back. But I guess we'll see. Like I said, the way they even talked about, I heard a clip of him and his buddy Kirk Cousins, talking on the podcast, and they were making it sound like it's pretty much a go. Like, he's gonna play. And it's like, dude, you had 2 weeks and way beyond that too. But like, man, I don't know. I mean, at some point these games are super important. So if he was able to play, we need him back. But you do kind of need your hamstring to be 100%. It's not one of those, and he even said this in that little press conference he had late last week. He even said, it's different having a banged up leg or ankle or something where you could just play through the pain. You can't run your route correctly at all, and the speed and all that. So, I don't know,
my guess is that he re-aggravated it probably sometime this week in practice. That's my guess. But now that I want to piggyback off what you just said. Everybody's saying now we got to win out, get us to 12-4. That's a difficult task. I don't know if we exactly have to win out, but that's looking like three of 4 games that we've got to win. Maybe drop one to the Chargers. We both kind of thought would be a tough game. But you've really got to win some games now. Thank God you've got Detroit on the docket. That could be a win if you play well at home. We'll get into that. You got the Bears, the Packers, and the Chargers.
3 out of 4.
And you got that little packet there with the Chargers and the Packers. That's no easy run there. It'd be nice to have Thielen for that.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a question for you right there. Now, it's really hard to separate last night, but let's just try to do it, okay? So at the beginning of the season, we both said that we're going to lose that game, right? It's just how we do it. Sometimes that sticks with you where you're like, I still needed to see something. And so there was a ton of negatives, but there was some positives as far as getting back in the game, still having a chance to win that game, even though we were down 17 early in the fourth. So, there's positives there, especially, like we said, with Thielen coming back. But it's just the strangest 8-4 year. And if we won out, even 12-4, it's just a strange 12-4. It just doesn't, maybe it's because of defense. It just doesn't feel like, I don't know, it doesn't feel that great, I guess you could say, because of that defense. Now you're like, shit. Last year we were just trying to stay above 500. If we get above 500 for a game, they get knocked back down and all that. And the writing was on the wall and all that. We knew the offense sucked, and we just didn't have any hope even if we got to the playoffs. Now we have this potential. Our offense is in gear for the most part. Bring back Thielen. What are you feeling at 8-4? And then let's say even 11-5, 12-4. If we went 12-4, there's a potential we could still win the division and have a home, game in the divisional round, opening round. How are you feeling just in general? Because I guess I can't really recall these, not just doubts. It's the Vikings. It's Minnesota. We call it living in Loserville. Of course we have doubts, but that's just part of life. But I just don't, it's hard to describe. It's like I just don't have as good as feeling as, I really think we could be 12-4 potentially, but I still am like, wow, I never thought it'd be the defense that here I am thinking, even if we're 12-4, I just don't like our chances. It's just a weird feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I echo your sentiments. We could be 12-4, 10-6, 9-7. It's all there. You just don't know which one you're going to get because there's really nothing to hang your hat on with this football team. It used to be the defense for the last few years. You said, okay, if offense can get us 24 points, we're in good shape. Not that way this year. So we can't hang our hats on a solid defense anymore. Offense is either play really, really well or not play well at all. So you can't hang your hat on that. So then maybe you have a game where the defense shines and the offense doesn't play well and you eke one out, or you lose it by a little bit. Or the opposite, where the offense plays really well in defense and then it's a shootout and you don't know if you're going to win that. There's really nothing to hang your hat on with this football club. Special teams are a problem. We got turnovers are a problem. There's a lot of things that in the last couple of years we haven't dealt with. Now some things are much better. I think the offensive cohesion with Cousins and the other players is great. They're making plays. They make plays most of the time and a lot of times when they need to and sometimes when they don't. But there's really nothing there to really hang your hat on and say, hey, this is at least going to be solid and we can go from there. It's kind of up every game. You don't know what you're going to get. Home and road seems to be an issue. We're very good at home, not so good on the road this year. There's a lot of just fluctuation in what to expect each game. And so I echo what you say there. And I don't really know. I mean, like I said, it could go anywhere from, I think, probably 9-7 to 12-4 in these last stretch of games. And you just don't know what you're going to get. I'm hoping it's that 10-6, 12-4 type of deal. But, it could take a nosedive. It's just very, very hard to tell.
Well, and what's funny is I'm confident they'll win at least two out of 2. I think they can go 3 out of 4, actually. I'm not going to give a percentage of, if they can win these last 4 games for sure, but I think they can win 3 out of 4. But still, you're looking at 11-5. How many 12-4, 11-5 seasons do you have where you're not feeling good about your squad going in? That's potentially a division, win. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know what it is, dude. I guess this defense is so vulnerable. I just think, oh, here we go. We're going to lose in a shootout. But maybe this is how it feels when you make the big run and we just don't know how it feels. Maybe we can get the glue all together on defense. We can blitz these exotic blitzes that, Zimmer's been saving up for these last couple of games. I think he's afraid to blitz because we're going to give up a 40-yard pass, but we're already giving those fucking things up, so you might as well fucking blitz. I need hits. I need contact on the quarterback. Like, for as many pressures as our ends have, it sure doesn't feel like we're pressuring the quarterback. I gotta say, like, how many times do we just get a good lick on the guy? It just doesn't seem like that in the past, and some of that's the run, some of that's just the quick passing too. Speaking of getting a lick on the quarterback, we may not be able to get a lick on the quarterback, or especially the backup for Detroit, Jeff Driscoll. He's put on IR. Their tight end, that's a stud, Hawkinson. He was put on IR. And they're still saying that Stanford could return this year, but he's questionable for the actual Vikings game. And they have a lot of money invested in this guy. The guy puts up numbers. He doesn't necessarily equate to wins. That's kind of how, his career's gone. He's chucked the shit out of the ball, though. He puts up a ton of numbers. He's a pretty damn good quarterback. I feel pretty good at home. Playing Detroit, especially if they don't have Stafford. If they're on their third quarterback, I think we could actually see one of those games where we collect 8 sacks, or we're really, basically what I just said, getting pressure on them, getting hits on them, even if you don't get the sacks.
Yeah, I mean, we're playing that, I think they're running that Blau kid out of Purdue. And I saw a game maybe last week. He played pretty well. They were at home. And, he made good throws, didn't turn the ball over. He played well. But, you're at the point in the season now with Detroit and their record where they're kind of mailing it in. It's what they kind of do every year. They might give us a fight, but if we fight back, they're going to give us the win. And plus we're at home. We seem to play well at home. We need to come back home and play well after what we just did in Seattle. I think that'll be good to get a nice game in and playing well, to, get a good start on the final bit of the season. Detroit, I just can't see us losing that game. And I want to knock on wood when I say that, because I don't know what the mood's going to be like coming out of the Seattle game. They could really, the Daubers could be down and they could come out and, Detroit jumps on you, and then you think, the sky's falling, and next thing you know, you're down 20 points. It could be anything, but if pattern shows, as it has for the last few seasons, this should be a win for us. I'm going to go ahead and say 33-17, something like that. I think Detroit will score a little bit, but, they've got a young quarterback. That's something that this defense historically has played well against, with the exception of Josh Allen. And, I see the Vikings, having a comfortable win at home, a little bit more comfortable than the Denver game was. But, it's all going to depend on how they digest what happened to them in Seattle, and particularly the beginning of that third quarter.
Well, I hope it's more comfortable in that Denver game. Holy crap. No, but, what do we got? Over under 43.5, 13-point favorite at home. It's funny. I was just going to match it right up with that 13 and say 30-17. So we're in there. They give up 26 points a game. I just think that their defense isn't great. It's like we complain about ours, but theirs is really bad. So I think ultimately they'll win off that. But this year there's been a couple of themes with the team, the defense, whatever, all that stuff. And then I've said we sound like a broken record. Here's another one. Okay, our opposition in close games. They've lost the last 5 games. Just looking at it, I think it's more, but just looking at the 5 games right now, they lost to Chicago 24-20, lost to Washington 19-16, lost to Dallas 35-27, lost to Chicago at Chicago 20-13, lost to Oakland at Oakland, who they're playing better now, 31-24, all by 7 points or less. So I guess we shouldn't just mount this up too much and count it as some kind of blowout. But both of us kind of have a blowout-ish game going. So we'll see. But I'm with you. I just think that we're not playing the Bears and we're not playing a good team on the road. So that means we're gonna fucking show out, looking like a Super Bowl team, right? I mean, that's usually
and Cook's supposed to. Right, and Cook's supposed to be back, and if he is back, that's a really, he sat that game last night, and it changes the whole dynamic of things. And like you said, we didn't try to run the ball much. There weren't a lot. Madison did a few things on some screens, which is good, but he really hampers. He's kind of the centerpiece of this offense, and without him, it's going to be tough sledding offensively. And nonetheless, he should be back for Detroit. We don't know about Thielen. But everybody else seems to be okay. We got a little Treadwell in there last night, although I don't know if that's a lucky play. It was a blown coverage by Seattle. So, he was there. He caught the ball. He ran for a touchdown. That's all good stuff. But I don't know if you can, really count on him to make plays. And, BC Johnson didn't have much. I think we got enough to beat Detroit at home. And you kind of need to get yourself right because this last stretch, you got a couple good teams in there. You got a couple bad teams in there. You got to win the majority of those games, and you got to be feeling good to do that.
Yeah. So that about wraps that up. Obviously, the last chunk, if you've been listening to the Vikings podcast all year, we do a segment to close the show with the Gopher football. Obviously, a great regular season, 10-2. It didn't go out with a bang. We still have it's kind of funny. We were just saying this. It's like a month before we play another game on January 1st. We assume it's going to be January 1st anyway. There's 2 different bowls that are, lining up with us. But, a lot of people, right away, that double move, Bateman 57 yards, and you're like, holy shit, this place is going nuts. It's popping off. Just like we told you last week, and this was Tuesday, right? Or was it Monday? I think it was Monday. We told you that when you live in Minnesota, you know the weather. You know it just off the temperature. And sure as shit, we didn't want rain. We didn't want sleet. We saw that high of 37, and sure as shit, what happened?
I texted you early in the morning, just the fucking word sleet.
Exactly, right? Like,
yep.
This is the only time it works, though, because when you look at your phone, you got some days off coming up for 4 days, you're like, oh, dude, it's going to be nice, Hell yeah, look at that sun. And then, day goes by, next day goes by, the forecast change, you're like, okay, partly cloudy's pretty good. It's still it'll be nice, though. The temperature's nice, starting to make it, and then all of a sudden it's raining that fucking day, and you're like, oh, great. But in this one, 5 days out, we knew exactly what the fuck was going to happen. And sure as shit, it did, dude. It only had a couple of moments of snow, and it looked like snow on TV. That was not snow. Now, from a personal perspective, if you look at Duluth, I'm getting some pictures from down there, from some folks. They got destroyed. So that rain was supposed to be snow. So that would have been – we still would have been shoveling right now. But you're up 7-0, dude. You're looking pretty damn good. We even get, a turnover. They had a long drive going. We got that turnover, and then things started going kind of wrong. Morgan, kind of forced a high pass in there, interception. They did hold to a field goal, no big deal. to me, Morgan missed a deep ball touchdown. It could have maybe been a pass interference when Bateman was even on his way back to it. I guess you could call that, but the ball was severely underthrown, and the corner was going for it. And Taylor made that one-hand catch out of the backfield with the Conklin right on him. Not much you can do about that. The big thing, before Smith got like that 23-yard run, 7 yards on 11 carries. At one point, it was 61-1 on rushing yards, but it's 10-7 at half. All's not lost. We're starting to see both sides of the offense and defensive line just being Wisconsin, doing Wisconsin things. We said it off air. The veteran, the been there, done that. They're just better than us right now. That offensive and defensive line, both sides, just got beat up. I did think Morgan didn't play his best game. Some of that wind, he was high on a couple of balls, and maybe, most of them were first downs. One of them was a touchdown, but what are you going to do on some of that? But still, we got a field goal. It's midway through the third quarter. It's 17-10. And just like it didn't even click, but the third quarter for Minnesota football, what the hell went on? And then it was just over, dude. Sure, we could say there's a couple of grab jerseys with the PIs. Sure, you could say that, but that still doesn't make up for losing by how much you lost. And when it got ugly, it was like a boulder going down the hill coming right at us. Like it got ugly and then it was over. 17-10, I'm thinking, dude, we can still do this. We're okay. And then we weren't.
Yeah, I'm going to back up a little bit. You really highlighted what I thought was the end of that game, and that's the catch by Taylor. It was a nice play call. They isolated Taylor against Coughlin, and, he ended up that play back in your senior captain into the end zone from about the 6-yard line. That was about it. I knew that was going to be hard to recover from just watching that happen. He could have threw him out of bounds or something, and he just ended up backing him into the end zone, and that doesn't do much for your morale. And that's when I said, this is going to turn. And it certainly did turn, and you're right, it just kind of was a boulder rolling downhill. And we kind of pinpointed a little bit off air that we just thought that on the offense and defensive line, they're a little bit older, a little bit stronger, a little more experienced in that kind of pressured situation in a big game. And I think that really showed, and the Gophers were probably due for something like that. It went all the way to the end of the season, and so you figured that's the one you want. You want to beat the Badgers. That's the one. You're 0-10. You still want to beat them. That's the game you want to win, regardless of what was on it. And there happened to be a lot on it, and they put themselves in that position. And I just don't think they played well under that position. Now under Fleck, I guess they're going to try to learn from their failing, which would be really great. But it's going to be another 100 years before you wind up with a schedule like that. And you had an opportunity, you blew it. I wouldn't say you blew it because you had a great season. I really think a 10-2 Gopher season is a great season. Now, yeah, you lost to your rivals. Those are your losses, but you got to look. Those are older, more experienced teams, probably a little bit stronger than you. I'm not making excuses, but if you're going to lose to a couple of teams, and you know why, the kind of teams that's going to beat you. It's going to be those teams, the teams that are, just stronger in the fronts than you are at this point in time. And it just gives you something to build on to get stronger in the fronts on your squad and know, what you got to do to beat the teams that are sustainable in what they do and their weight room and how they lift. And, it's a step in the program. We're getting there. And, as sour as it was, it's just another, brick in the wall, I guess, as the saying goes.
Yeah, we still have a chance to get a quality win. That would be 2 quality wins, 2 quality losses. it's not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at the, they highlighted those 6 offensive linemen that we use, throughout usually you don't bring in a 6-man off the bench, so to speak, but they did throughout the year. So literally, I honestly think there's about 16 offensive linemen and like 13 of them are coming back, and no senior played on the line at any time this year. So to get your top 6 coming back, and I think only 2 or 3 of those are seniors, so the next 2 years we're really going to see the dividends of that. And you could see the last 4 to 6 games they started putting it together from an offensive line standpoint, and defensive line, I guess, as well. But just talking about the offensive line, this year they did pretty damn good. They still, they still got some room to grow. And so, I mean, people say, oh, Tyler Johnson is gone. Well, first of all, Tyler could have went last year and went in the 3rd round maybe. You know what I mean? He could have got some money out of it, and he came back. So just getting them back was something else. But when you okay, they don't have Tyler Johnson or Bateman, Wisconsin, right? But yet that wasn't a problem moving the ball, was it? So it was because they dominated on both sides of the ball, our offensive and defensive line. Obviously, we're talking about offense. Their defensive line, their front 7 just tore us up. There's just no way around it. There was no rushing room, and it is what it is. But to bring back 6 guys that all played, and I think only 2 of them in the starting lineup are seniors next year. That's huge. So, yeah, we lose Tyler Johnson, but we still got Bateman as a junior, who, by the way, is still going to draw a double. So that's really all you need is a guy. We were spoiled with 2,000-yard receivers, but Fleck's going to be okay there. In fact, he just got a 2020 guy that LSU and Miami wanted from Florida. Got his ass. You know what I mean? So they got some coming in, actually, too. So we're going to be okay at wide receiver. And just one thing from that game, a lot of the local media, a lot of people talked about this, especially in college, and it's that go for it mentality. Now we have the ball at the Wisconsin 38. We're past the 50. Obviously, we're going to have to figure out a kicker next year because we can't keep making these decisions, right? This 4th and 9 shit. I don't like going for it that many times. However, 4th and 2 at the 38 and we punt. I gotta say that in that situation, it surprised me a little bit because of the way we play call all year long. What were your thoughts there?
You think that you have to kind of judge where we are in the game, what's going on. Wisconsin, remind me where this is in the game.
It's early. It's on like the 2nd drive.
Okay.
We have a chance to either get a first down and maybe get in range for a field goal or score a touchdown on that drive and be up 14-3 or 10-3.
Well, you got the freshman kickers. You got 2 freshman kickers.
Yeah, dude.
Which really need to improve.
It is a mess. We cannot go for it on 4th and 9 the amount of times we did this year, dude.
I guess they just tried to pin them back. I mean, that was probably what they tried to do and, make that field long for them to get down. I guess that's the way you look at it. I mean, he knows his defense. He knows what they're capable of. I don't know if I didn't have any problem with it, but I also thought to myself, God, you wish you could get a guy that would come and kick the ball and get a field goal, get some points. So, I didn't have any big issue with it, but yeah, it would have been nice to have a kicker that be able to, you were confident enough to be able to make that kick.
But even at 38-yarder, a 38-yard line, which, we add, 16 or whatever, 17 to it?
Yeah.
That, past 50 in college, you might as well not go for it. Right. I guess what surprised me was that all year long we've been doing it. And there's been times where I'm like, dude, it's 4th and 7. Just punt the fucking ball, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just punt it. And so I guess it was surprising. I don't think that it changed the whole landscape like several media local members thought, but it surprised me. I'll put it that way. But as far as recruiting, to have 10 wins in Fleck's back pocket and hit the road for the early day signing, I think there's 23 right now committed but it's not. We won't know how many are committed until about, I think it's like 2.5 weeks ago, that early signing period that we mentioned off air. And then, early February is the final signing day. Well, I shouldn't say final, but usually when the rest of the big names come, you do actually do some damage after that. But, recruiting wise, defensive line, obviously we brought in a bunch last year. I really hope that, cause that 4 seniors across that line, and they played better than expected. Sure at Iowa and sure at Wisconsin they didn't play that well. They kind of showed some of the weakness and whatnot, but I just think it's just a build, man. And you take steps. We kind of felt like we were, ahead of schedule. As far as that schedule goes, instead of playing Penn State, we'll be playing Michigan next year. Okay? So and when I say instead of, it's like the bigger team from the other side. You have the West, you have the East. Well, we're talking about, okay, who's coming from the East? That's where Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and not as much right now, Michigan State, but they're kind of still lingering. And that's the other game that you could look at, people will look at and say, oh, Michigan State. So we have Michigan, basically add Michigan State to our schedule next year. So to our schedule. And we do have we actually have a tricky non-conference game in BYU at home. BYU is actually a pretty good club. They tend to have close games, and they should be a little bit more advanced than they are this year. That's a tricky one. It's at home. But here's what it looks like. Florida Atlantic and Tennessee Tech, both at home. We actually have all of our September games are at home. Now, here's the difference this year. The Big Ten schedule starts earlier this year as far as the thickness, okay? So we got those 2 games that we'll win. We will win those games. But then they got Iowa at home and then BYU. So that's going to be tricky. And then 2 weeks later, they have Wisconsin and Michigan. So within that first 7 games, those are 3 tough games: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Iowa. So it's kind of flippant, It would have been nice if it was more spread out than this year where our toughest games were 3 out of the last 4, That did kind of suck. But as far as the schedule, it's heavy early. The first 7 games are going to be tough. But then you have Illinois. You have a down Michigan State right now, and they are down. Purdue, Northwestern, Nebraska. So we're going to have an easier end in November. But, yeah, it's challenging through the first 6-7 games next year.
Well, yeah, and what's going to be really cool is the build-up to the season, because we haven't really came off of a 10-2 season before and into a new season. And I think that's going to be a lot more excitement, a lot more anticipation, be a lot more Gopher talk when the season starts to come up. And it won't be like, okay, well, the Gophers start and they're going to play Southwest Missouri State, blah, blah, blah. People are going to get excited from game 1 and kind of work through that. And the schedule is a kind of mishmash. Now, here's the thing that I kind of disagree with you on is that, nobody saw the Gophers being the team that they were this year. And so you add the teams that you add in this year or in the next year's schedule, and then we don't know who's going to be good. Illinois started showing some signs this season of being a pretty good football team. Nebraska, this could be the year when they pop up and show their face. You've got a lot of teams that Michigan State could make a turn and be pretty darn good, and that just increases the difficulty of your schedule with those 3 teams there. So I don't want to go ahead and say, because even going into this season, we didn't know who was going to be good and who wasn't, and who ended up good and who wasn't. Purdue we thought would be a lot better than they were. So we don't really know, obviously, what next year is going to hold. But you add in, Michigan State into that schedule. You add in the timing of the games. Iowa's 3rd game in is not going to be easy at all. Like you said, Wisconsin 2 weeks after that.
They will be breaking in a new quarterback. That's about
there. But they still got that running back that tore us up down there too. So, and he's a freshman, so he'll be around for a while. And so I mean it's going to be a tougher schedule, but like you and I have said in other podcasts,
not as tough as people are saying.
Sure, and we're going to be, and this will be our, and we'll be building. We're going to be a better team. All signs are that we'll be a better team next year for a better schedule than we were this year. So hopefully we improve as others improve, and we can keep a good standing in the West.
Yeah, and that's just an ongoing thing, too, as far as what you're saying. There are programs that jump up, they come back down. In 2 years, Northwestern will be better than they are right now. That's kind of how it, it does fluctuate like that, no doubt about it. And that's the key thing about college football. You play your rivals every single fucking year. So we'll just get them next year. It's not going to hurt next year. I mean, here's the funny thing. We could be, the Gophers could be 10-2. And do exactly what 11-1 would have had this year. They literally could go to the Big Ten. They could they could lose to Iowa or Wisconsin, but beat one of them, and then lose to Michigan, and be 10-2 and go to the Rose Bowl potentially. You know what I mean? They could also be 8-4, but yet they could lose by, a total of 19 points in those four, you know what I mean? So you're right. I just think that people are a little, like, oh, we're fucked next year on the schedule. Well, slow down. You know what I mean? Like, it's only adding one more squad from that other side in Michigan State. And like you said, we really don't know we know where Michigan State is right now. We don't know where they're going to be next year, but clearly the off-season issues that they've had, or off-field issues that they had the last 2.5 years, has hurt their recruiting really, really badly. And there's just no way around that. And so that helps us in general. But yeah, anything else you want to add before we get the hell on out of here, sir?
No, man. Let's go and wrap it up.
All right. Well, we appreciate everybody listens to the Living in Loserville podcast. We'll be back next week. We really need the Vikings to secure a W at home. Like I said, we'll be back next week. Enjoy the games. Take a couple of days off. Get football out of your mind, and you'll be right back ready to go on Sunday. We're out of here. Peace.